Good afternoon. My name is Kate Newton, and I'm here today to represent Corinne Flesher, Regional Director of the World Food Programme in the Middle East and North Africa. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to be here with you today, and of course, it's an honour. This session is on shock responsiveness. The COVID-19 pandemic and its far-reaching impact on all aspects of our societies and sectors of our economies has demonstrated the crucial importance of strong national social protection systems and their shock responsiveness, which means the ability of those systems to respond rapidly to shocks. We saw that countries with broad-based social protection systems in place were able to respond effectively, to extend coverage and to increase levels of protection to people who urgently needed it. We've seen that social protection systems can be made more shock responsive if they're designed in a way which is adaptable. And this enables more timely, predictable, and cost-effective support. There's three issues that we want to just cover in this opening statement. First of all, to ensure that the most vulnerable in the population are adequately covered. Secondly, the issue of comprehensiveness, which means how we analyze risk comprehensively and how we anticipate and prepare for shocks. And then also the extent to which risks are adequately covered and how to ensure sufficient financial protection to people affected by shocks. Women and children often bear the brunt of large shocks and crises. So investing in shock responsive social protection systems that are gender and child sensitive is essential. To protect the most vulnerable, greater emphasis needs to be placed on preventative measures, preparedness, and flexibility. This includes ensuring durable solutions for refugees, those displaced, and other people on the move who are outside of any formal social protection scheme. This requires us to think about the humanitarian peace development nexus and the pathways from emergency assistance to longer-term social protection strategies. This will include linking participants to contributory social security schemes through their participation in the labour market and the extension of social protection to regular and irregular migrants in the informal economy. COVID-19 also demonstrated the need for greater flexibility of and connectedness between social protection mechanisms and flexibility of switching between different assistance types. It placed an increased focus on the role that cash-based transfers can play in enabling flexibility, providing for people's essential needs and tackling multi-dimensional poverty, but also using humanitarian assistance more broadly, including food distributions and medical supplies. The crisis reinforced the joint responsibility between national and humanitarian social protection actors, and that is, of course, where we come in as the World Food Programme. Excellencies, with these thoughts in mind, I look forward to your country statements and to our subsequent discussion, and I hope that we can tackle some of these critical issues today and learn from experiences in your countries. Just to run through how this session will work, each panelist will have 5 minutes for their country statement, followed by a 5-minute intervention, and then I'll open the floor for discussion. Our colleagues online will remind us of time limits. The speaking order will be Jordan, followed by Yemen, Mauritania, Somalia, and then Qatar. I'm sorry, I think there's a mistake there because I've got Somalia twice. Let me just check that. We've got Jordan, then Yemen, then Mauritania, then Somalia, then Qatar, and then we have another direct Somali cash consortium after that. I will turn first to His Excellency, Mr. Barq Al-Dhmour, Secretary General of Ministry of Social Development from Jordan. Excellency, the floor is yours for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, honorable guests, greetings to you all. I am pleased to be with you. the world had made significant strides forward to enhance social protection and to speed up the recovery against COVID-19 pandemic, as well as strengthening social protection systems. A lot of improvements have been made. However, the evidence shows that the achievements are not adequate. In order to reach the expected objectives, we need to put focus on developing effective mechanisms at the national level in order to foster the international framework, because here lies the challenge. We need to ask ourselves, how would it be possible for all population to take part in the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals, and what are the main obstacles from the different aspects? How international development tools could contribute to the needed permanent change, and how can we transmit best practices to other countries? Throughout the past 2 decades, Jordan faced a series of shocks, including the influx of refugees, the lack of regional stability, and the economic shocks. Such shocks have really undermined public resources and service delivery, which increased weaknesses and reduced the financial space. Lately, the COVID-19 pandemic and the related lockdown had caused economic and social negative unprecedented impacts that have affected wide groups of people, especially the vulnerable categories. For example, the unemployment rate had went up to 25% in the first quarter of 2021, with significant increases amongst the youth and women. Jordan's location contributes also to having more shocks because of the political and economic instability in the region. Such challenges have helped put and give priority to the social protection measures in these times, and to institutionalize the lessons learned from COVID pandemic in order to improve the preparedness for contingencies and to build on the social protection so it becomes more shock responsive. Jordan had realized the importance of a coordinated social protection platform that is more responsive by adopting and significant influential policies in the last couple of years, with the adoption of the National Strategy for Social Protection for 2019-2025. 3 months through the pandemic, and with the support of the different UN special agencies and development partners, the country was able to provide further programs and interventions pertaining to social protection more than any other country in the Middle East and North Africa, according to the UN. And here, allow me to mention certain examples of interventions: a wide-scale cash transfer for informal workers. First, 240,000 households. Second, 160,000 households. The first phase of beneficiaries were covered in 9 days after the declaration of the emergency cash transfer for the daily wage earners. And the measures included the increase of the payments to the beneficiaries and the increase of the number of beneficiaries. The General Social Security Organization have benefited more than 6,400 Jordanian and non-Jordanian households 1 year through the pandemic, including the increase of the Social Security to the workers and companies that are not previously registered. Jordan had taken several measures to ensure continuity of social services, including health, education, protection, and, for example, the delivery of free medication and treatment to the COVID patients, as well as vaccination to all residents. How was Jordan able to provide such a rapid response? Having one framework and a national strategy for the social protection, as well as the national mechanisms like the Coordination Committee on the implementation of the national strategy and the Social Protection Committee on the COVID-19 response. In addition to the high-level political will to provide protection, was one of the big support and pillars for a quick response. In addition to the digitization of the social protection sector through the unified national registry, the registration, e-registration, and e-payment. Other factors the improvement of the coverage with the support of the World Bank and the UNICEF and the new program developed by the National Assistance Program, whereas a multifaceted indicators on poverty was used. 27 indicators were used, which allowed the coverage of the poor workers and 200,000 additional poor children by the inclusion of the children, which was a sensitive component. At the end, I would like to say that Jordan have contributed to the achievement of the SDGs despite the volatility, the economic shocks, and the instability. The social protection, national social protection framework was improved, and the main lesson learned here from the COVID-19 pandemic is the important increase of investment for preparedness to emergencies and contingencies, so the national social protection becomes better and more capable of facing shocks. To conclude, allow me to thank the organizers of this important forum that really keeps pace with the ambitions and commitments of Jordan for better development of the comprehensive, inclusive, and sustainable social protection framework and system. Thank you very much for listening.
Excellency, thank you very much. I know it's extremely difficult to summarize such significant work in the space of 5 minutes, but I think you did a very good job. So I'll just go directly on to Yemen now so that we can continue the discussion with His Excellency Dr. Mohammed Saeed Al-Za'ouri, Minister of Social Affairs and Labour. Your 5 minutes starts now. Thank you very much. Sorry, can I just check that I was heard at that point for Yemen to commence? Over. Have we not? So if we don't have Yemen online, we can go on to the next participant and come back to Yemen. Okay, why don't we go on to Mauritania? His Excellency Mr. Sadaf Seedi Mohammad, General Director of Ministry and Social Work, Childhood and Family. I'm not sure if we're having technical problems or if there's some kind of problem with my transmission. Okay, let's try. Do we have a participant from Somalia? I'm seeking. Yes. Okay, Mr. Abdullahi Mohammed Ali, Director General, Minister of Labour and Social Affairs of Somalia. Mr. Abdullahi, would you like to go ahead? Over.
Thank you, Jen. Good afternoon, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It's with great pleasure that I join you in today's ministerial forum to discuss the future of social protection in the Arab region, building a vision for a post-COVID reality. I'm honored to share this important platform with your Excellencies. A brief background on the context of the social protection in Somalia. The federal government of Somalia approved the Somali social protection policy in 2019 and the accompanying implementation framework for the policy in 2020. As a very bold step to providing clear strategic guidance to the understanding, coordination, and implementation of social protection in the country. Social protection in Somalia is being implemented by various sectors and stakeholders and across various levels and segments of Somali society at both federal government and federal member states level. This has in the past been largely dominated by the development partners, providing humanitarian support and in fairly uncoordinated manner, but is currently evolving both federally and subnationally to more formalized, organized, regular, and predictable government led by owned interventions. One of Mali's key social protection intervention includes the World Bank funded Safety Net for Human Capital project, which will look more into our panel discussion. The government of Somalia recognized the role social protection plays in elevating poverty and also as a key response to alleviate the social economic impacts of COVID-19. Therefore, we are prioritizing strengthening systems as well as coordination to ensure we are able to respond shock responsive effectively. On behalf of the Ministry of Labor and Social Affairs, I would like to take also this opportunity to illustrate in this crucial panel discussion to measure perspectively and ascertain the assurance to help our people long affected by redundant natural and human-induced disaster, bearing in mind the current looming of drought throughout the country, which has affected millions and uprooted hundreds. This is because the failure of 2 consecutive rainy seasons and other climates have been reduced the resilience of our already vulnerable communities across the country. This is a devastating and require urgent actions. As a result, the government, along with its partners, are striving hard to ensure lives, children, and women are saved. Shock responsiveness, therefore, is a way in Somalia long-term to mitigate such shocks to these communities. The government of Somalia is committed to promote such initiatives to ensure sustainable and durable solution to the plight of the affected and the vulnerable communities by such disaster caused by the globally affected climate change. The government of Somalia will continue to foster the realization of the climate effects to ecosystem and stand by with the rest of the world on how to curb its effects. Let me not take much of our time as we will look more into Somalia's social protection landscape in our panel discussion. Thank you, and I look forward to fruitful and engaging discussions. Thank you.
Of the different organizations. I am honored to be representing the Minister of Social Affairs, the Child and the Family, who regrets not being able to attend this conference because she is away from the country in a ministerial mission, but she wishes your conference well, all the success. And in this context of the pandemic, we would like to shed light on the importance of social protection when managing disasters. it is a way to alleviate poverty, fragility, and help people, and also support resilience and recovery, in addition to facilitating social inclusiveness and social protection. In fact, our role is mainly attached and linked to risk management of different traumas, of different catastrophes, and so on. It is also related to managing the different traumas and risks regarding the daily lives of people. The President's program regarding his pledges towards social protection were a main pillar in our strive to eradicate poverty and strengthen social protection in Mauritania without any kind of discrimination, and in a strive to let people access a better life and without leaving anyone behind. The government of the first Minister Saeed Mohamad Masoud had implemented a multi-dimensional and multi-sectoral plan to fight the negative effects of COVID-19. Additionally, our ministry has increased its provision of services to take care of the patients, of COVID-19 patients, and has provided care to hundreds of people. More than 100,000 families or households benefited from our social care and our social assistance and support. And we have also strived to help mainly the women and the persons with disabilities. In addition to the support that we have provided to everyone, we have provided financial support to different patients, including the patients of liver patients and kidney patients. We have been working relentlessly to fight off the negative effects of COVID-19, which and that has been symbolized by a fund that we have created and which has gathered different participants and different partners from both the private and public sectors. We have all worked together in order to take care of the COVID-19 patients. This kind of cooperation had given important, positive, and significant effects. We have also communicated as a government with the students in the educational sector to try and make sure that the educational process does not stop. We've done that through the internet and through TV also. I don't have enough time, but I would like to remind everyone that the Mauritanian government has done relentless and great efforts in order to fight off the COVID-19 effects. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I think at this point we may have the representative from Yemen. If I can just check in again if we have representation from Yemen, and if not, then we'll move on. We have the.
I don't think we have Yemen yet, Kate. Over.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. Then may I please invite His Excellency Mr. Mohammed Hassan Al-Abadi from Qatar, who is Assistant Deputy Minister of Labour, to speak. Over.
Thank you. And at first, I would like to extend my thanks to the organizers of this important conference that is held in a time when all the countries of the world, including our Arab region, are working on facing off and fending off the consequences of the pandemic. Since the appearance of the COVID-19, Qatar managed to meet the challenges, the economic and social challenges of this pandemic through taking the right precautionary measures in order to help and protect all the workers. We have also laid down a good and well-coordinated plan to fight off, as we said, this COVID-19 pandemic. We have also provided good health care to the workers all throughout this pandemic. All the workers are receiving the required vaccines, and these vaccines were provided to everyone in our society, including the non-nationals or the immigrants. So far, a big portion of the Qatari residents and Qataris are vaccinated, and we have recorded important figures in our efforts. We have given more than 75 billion Qatari riyals in order to make sure that people go on with their jobs, and the ministry has made sure that the workers are also receiving their due salaries throughout this pandemic, and that they are living in decent conditions. We also have made sure that everybody is living decently according to the vision of Qatar 2030, and we have sent surveillance teams to make sure that everybody is respecting that. We have also been studying the way to create new job opportunities post-COVID-19. We also have ratified new protection measures for the women, and we have declared that there will be new ways of payment of their salaries and wages, and they are going to be able to send it to their countries directly. We have also created a new fund to support the workers, to make sure that all the workers are getting paid duly. This is happening in cooperation and coordination with all the stakeholders, especially the employers and the employees, and through strengthening social dialogue and partnership between the different sectors, the private and public sectors. And all these efforts have made our strides toward recovery and resilience much better and easier. This is why our Ministry is now working on the effective implementation of these laws, and is also working with the stakeholders to implement the social protection programs in a way that would be suitable and that would meet the requirements and demands of the society. Again, I would like to thank you again for this important conference and for allowing us the opportunity to show you and to demonstrate what we have done and how we can go on in the recovery phase after or post COVID-19. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Excellency. And thank you again for making such a valuable contribution in such a short time. If I could now call upon the director of the Somali Cash Consortium for Concern Worldwide. This is Mr. Alessandro Bini. Over.
Hi, thanks, Kate, and thanks everyone. I've been asked to maybe just reflect briefly on some of the country level statement that we heard so far. I think maybe just to start, if there has been one positive outcome from the COVID-19 pandemic, has been maybe in all countries the importance of social protection systems, and particularly the importance of having adaptable and shock responsive social protection systems in place. We have heard the experiences from Jordan, Mauritania, Somalia, and Qatar, and how they have responded. Obviously, the focus on the COVID-19 pandemic has been on COVID-19 data, and therefore a lot of the focus was on the coordination with ministries of health in the different countries. We know that most countries face a number of shocks. Yeah, in terms of internal displacement, influx of refugees, economic level shocks, natural. We heard from Somalia that they're now sort of preparing to respond to yet another drought and the impact it's going to have on the country. So maybe one reflection is around the importance of strong early warning systems. They are able to pick up on these different type of shocks, on the coordination that social protection system, Ministry of Labor and Social Affairs need to have with the agencies in charge of and analyzing early warning data, which tend to be other agencies. We have heard from the participant about the importance of coordination. The focus was between Ministry of Social Affairs and Labor and Ministries of Health, but we have heard as well of example of coordination with Ministries of Education, ensure that children remain in school throughout the pandemic. And similar applies to other ministries within another very important aspect. I think the presenter, they have been mentioning about the quickly expand the reach of their social protection program. This obviously requires capacity to expand the financial resources available. And this can be done in different ways, depends on the level of the different countries and development of their social protection system. I think of the presenter were particularly focusing on expanding resources by the government, so public resources. But I think there will be countries that will need to look at how to better coordinate with humanitarian and how to make sure that this humanitarian funding are used in a coordinated manner within to complement the social protection system. Some of the most used social protection tools during the COVID-19 pandemic response to it have been cash-based social transfer, for example, because I think we have all realized that they are fairly fast and effective in reacting to a sudden, and they've been used widely in many countries. Obviously, these need to have sort of systems in place and financing in place for it. And maybe just one reflection in terms of countries that are looking at transitioning from on humanitarian intervention towards a system that is more based on a national social protection system. I'm thinking of Somalia, where I'm working at, and we are from the DGO Ministry of Labor and Social Affairs. Somalia is going through this process at the moment, moving away from many humanitarian intervention to a national social protection systems. Obviously requires coherence in terms of policies and in terms of coordination between government actor and development and humanitarian actor. I think I'll stop there so that we can open the floor to discuss.
Thank you very much, Alessandra. Maybe just before we open the floor to discussion, we could just bring in our colleague from Yemen. I understand that now Dr. Mohammed Saeed Al-Za'ouri is online. He's Minister of Social Affairs and Labour. Dr. Mohammed, would you like to come in over? I'm sorry, I still can't hear the Yemen participant. I think we may have to go into the plenary discussion. Can I just give a few more seconds for Yemen to come online?
I believe they may be facing some technical difficulties as well, Kate. So,
do we have anyone else from Yemen who would like to come in, even if Dr. Mohammed is not present? Do we have a participant from Yemen?
Hello, everybody. I am Nagla Sayad from Yemen. True, we do have a technical problem. His Excellency was online with you and he still is there. But I think he is facing some sort of a technical problem. So this is why I logged in. I wanted to tell you that we had provided or submitted a shock responsiveness paper from Yemen. His Excellency had prepared it himself and wanted to read it himself, but I don't know if he will be able to do it. Just give us a little bit more of time and I will be with you. I will be here waiting, but please give us a little bit more time.
That's fine. You can just let us know as soon as you're ready to speak. And maybe in the meantime, we can just invite some of the panelists who've already spoken. They may have comments that they would like to make over. I think maybe the best thing is if we ask those people who've already spoken, if they do have comments they wish to make, if they can raise their hands. And if we start with that while we're waiting for Yemen, and then obviously we'll broaden the discussion out both to the comments that are in the chat and to other members of the audience. Over.
He's raising his hand.
Mauritania, would you like to come in over?
I have a commentary. I would like to say that this pandemic, this COVID-19 pandemic, is transnational. It doesn't recognize any borders. It has it is not country specific. This is why I ask you through this platform, I ask the countries who have great economic potential to look at the poorer countries which do not have economic potentials or big economic potentials in order to help them with vaccinations and with financial and economic support in order to get out of this pandemic tunnel. Because it is well known that if that pandemic resides basically in a country, and since our countries are all tied together, the consequences are going to move from one country to another. And in order to eradicate this pandemic in the bigger meaning, the bigger countries must help the smaller ones or the poorer ones through providing vaccines and medication, and of course financial and economic support. I am well aware that the organizers of this conference are well aware that as long as this pandemic resides in a certain country, it will move to other countries too. This is why it would be better for everyone if the stronger countries support the weaker countries, and in order to go back to the phase where we were back in 2019. And I would like to wish you all the luck and success in this conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Excellency. And I think building on that and thinking about the shock of the pandemic, it would be useful maybe some of the panelists could give us some ideas about the possible pathways that we can look at in terms of moving from humanitarian interventions, the kind of assistance that we've seen so far, into the kind of national social protection systems that we've been discussing. So what kind of policy program areas would we prioritize, knowing that what for you are the key priorities, assistance that you've mentioned, but what do you think are the real key programmatic policy areas for you, for your social protection systems? Maybe we can draw that out a little bit more. Over. Oh yes, that would be delighted to for Yemen to come in. Please go ahead, Yemen. So maybe I can just reintroduce you, Dr. Mohammed Saeed Al-Za'ouri, Minister of Social. Excellency, you'll need to unmute so we can hear you. Would it be possible for His Excellency to be advised to unmute? Over.
Is it clear? Can you hear us properly? First, I would like to salute you all and thank you for the organization of this important conference on social protection. And we ask God to help you and guide you in your blessed efforts in trying to alleviate the pains of people, especially in a country like Yemen, where we have armed conflicts. It is true that social protection is very important to help the people get a better life on different categories and in different categories and according to different ages and lifespans. However, the COVID-19 has shed light on the importance of social protection, and that showed that social protection is a dire need. It is also a right for everyone because it improves their lives, their economic and social prospects, and it lessens the social disparities and improves economic contribution and helps people find better employments and employment opportunities and better economic futures. So these are important outcomes. Social protection also aims at the interpreters cannot hear well. The sound is crackling and is cracking up. So social protection and shock responsiveness in Yemen. Yemen has been in a fragile state because of the wars in 2015. And this has given it more challenges, including political challenges and conflicts, IDF and internally displaced persons, and the refugees from Africa and so on. This has led to the total destruction of the lives of people. The interpreter cannot hear well. The sound is breaking badly. The consequences of the war have been especially hard on the poor and the poorest social categories, and has also hit the middle class hard. It has affected them and affected also communication between them because of the lack of funding. The line is breaking. Yemen is, of course, experiencing an unstable state situation which requires an immediate response, especially that it is going through a crisis, an ongoing crisis. The crisis mechanisms of so the crisis has made poverty, has worsened poverty, has decreased it has decreased the wages and however, the NGOs and international NGOs have been crucial in helping us. We had cash transfers too that we have implemented under the supervision of the Ministry of Social Affairs, and we work on that matter closely with the different actors. And we have also given special care and attention to pregnant women and children. We have also lend our attention to unemployment and the unemployed. However, the main challenges are, for now, the halting of the social protection programs for both the private and public sectors because of the war, and because the legitimate government is now unable to extend its authority over all the territories of Yemen. Our social protection programs that were targeting the poor have stopped, and this has led to a worse conditions for the poor. Additionally, more than 80% of the people are now below the poverty line because of the ongoing crisis and war. The humanitarian crisis engendered by the war has also stopped the main cash transfer programs that were going on before the war. Most of the population is dependent on humanitarian support and assistance. Many social protection programs have been stopped, knowing that even before the war, these social protection programs were not enough and were not suitable and were not prepared to respond to shocks. As for food safety, there are millions of people who are in need of food assistance. More than 16 million people are sleeping hungry every night, and millions of other Yemenis are doing their best just to fend off dying from hunger. The estimated number of people who are in need of social protection is 50 million people back in 2020, and the food prices have increased 400% since last year. And we have a peg rate of 1,500 Yemeni riyal for $1. Our inflation rate is one of the highest in the world, and it is still deteriorating. A recent survey showed that most of the households almost do not consume any dairy products or meats or even vegetables. In Yemen, more than millions of pregnant women are hungry and starving. The same goes for the children. Millions of them are starving and malnutrition. Unemployment rates have soared. The line is breaking. The humanitarian situation in Yemen is quite fragile.
We do need to move on to the
the line is breaking. I am so sorry.
Did we just lose? I think we just lost the panelist. But maybe I can just ask others again if they would like to come in and comment. And I think one of the questions that's been raised is, what is the one most important area you'd like to focus on or to invest in to make social protection systems more shock responsive as we move forward? Maybe we could put that question out to the panelists. I can see that, Alessandro, you have your hand up. I don't know if others also would like to. Can I invite you to speak, Alessandro?
Yes, sure, Kate. Actually, I was about to answer to a question in the chat for me, but I think it's actually very, very similar. I'd say that if we take a context of low capacity, could be Somalia in our example, or growing capacity, or Yemen, which has heard from the ministries of labor talk. I think one of the pathways to transition from humanitarian intervention to social protection system is to use existing capacity where it is, and whether it is with UN agencies, as is often the case, or with NGOs who are delivering cash transfer program or safety net type of program. Capacity to deliver can be used, though under coordination and supervision of the government, while in parallel those required systems are being built. Yeah. This is what is happening in Somalia at the moment. The use of the administrative capacity to deliver by those organizations in the previous years, while the system to do targeting at national level, the system to register a large number of citizens in a unified registry, the system to deliver, for example, cash or social protection built in parallel. And so over time, this system can transition under the responsibility of the government. Just on targeting, contexts where data are scarce or difficult because they just don't exist, collect, I'd say probably is a better option to focus on simple categories to target. We just dared, expecting women newborn baby, out of school children, elderly, category, they are much easier to target. The vulnerabilities are quite clear and clear to address. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Alessandro. I can also see Mr. Ahmad Ahwad has his hand up. Would you like to come in and ask make your comment over?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for inviting me to take part in this important meeting. I have a quick intervention. The observers of social protection systems in the Arab world easily notice that our main issue doesn't lie in the lack of enough funding in order to promote the protection systems in a coherent and consistent way. However, the main issue is the lack of mechanisms, governance mechanisms, and the lack of coherent policies, whereas no state institution operates in an isolated way, like the social security administrations, the different pension schemes, the different assistance schemes by the ministries to the poor, the deprived and marginalized categories. What we rather need more than funding or protection systems that are in coherence according to coherence basis. And unfortunately, we know that most of the Arab worlds lack coherence and governance systems because of the lack of democracy. That's the main question to ask when we think about fostering social protection systems and schemes in our region. If you allow me another comment, unfortunately, in several Arab countries and during the last couple of years, the employment is being promoted by just targeting the poor and the needy and the social protection and not resorting to the inclusive and comprehensive system that avoids having further people under the poverty line and becoming deprived. This inclusive vision is lacking. Unfortunately, we do follow up on the programs and policies endorsed by some international financial institutions, including the IMF, which always aims at reducing the expenditure. And you know that the social expenditure is the easiest to be reduced and suspended. The wage policies and the employment policies are used in this direction at the detriment of the inclusive social protection system, whereas they just target assisting the poor and the deprived. The social protection systems are used as tools in order to promote economies, in order to encourage investors to invest in our countries, and that's at the detriment of the social protection. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ahmad Awad. I think you drew some good attention there to the governance issues, which all panelists need to think through. I'm afraid that we're really running quite short of time now, and maybe I could just, as a way to close this interesting discussion, ask all the panelists for one area of social protection that you would each want to invest in to make your social protection systems more shock responsive. So if you're able to highlight one area that you really think requires investment, if you have to pick one area, maybe you can just give us your reflections on what that might be in brief. Many thanks. Again, please just put your hand up if you'd like to give some thoughts on that. If I think Jordan would like to come in, so may I invite you to speak? Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. I think that investing in social protection systems in the future would have to target a comprehensive database. And in Jordan, we have such a national unified registry, which really helped us a lot under the pandemic. There was full coordination between the social protection related agencies, the National Assistance Agency, and the Social Security Fund, because there was no duality in the assistance to the beneficiaries, thanks to the continuous coordination. Second, the digitization of the social protection related figures is important. So services, social protection services that are automated and digitized would help us become more shock responsive in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Excellency. We heard you speaking earlier about the importance of digitization, and I think that was a very helpful intervention on the need for comprehensive database. I think that I can see that Mauritania also have their hand up. I think that's a new hand. May I just invite you to come in, Excellency?
In the name of God, the most compassionate, the most merciful, I believe that the action to be taken in order to guarantee a robust social protection is the development of the social networks, social safety nets, and as mentioned by the Jordanian colleague, to rely on sound database, which would enable all social protection actors and stakeholders to provide the services and assistance to those who are in need. In addition to educating the citizen must be educated to know how he should express his social situation so that the state can intervene in a timely and correct manner. In addition, in Mauritania, there is a social registry that accounts for all of such situations, which helped the state in its recent interventions and in previous ones, because the National Register helped identify those who are in need of funding and of assistance. This had really helped the state have access to the people who deserve the interventions. The cash transfers must be as well updated, and sound access must be ensured. In addition to the continuous studies and availability of data about the beneficiaries and the targeted vulnerable groups, i.e. job seekers, income generating projects, so that the beneficiaries that must be taken out of unemployment would be helped, so that their purchase power would get boosted, and the database must also account for those who got out of the poverty line and those who went down under the poverty line. I thank you very much and wish you further success and prosperity.
Thank you very much. I think that's a very good note to end on, to reflect on the importance of a flexible social registry, and one that is sensitive to people picking up income generating opportunities, but also that it is an enabler for people to access the assistance they need. And you know, good to hear that the Mauritanian system is using cash transfers. I think we're all very much in favor of cash transfers where appropriate. I think we are really running out of time, and therefore I would just like to thank you all very much for participation in this session, which was rather crowded, and I do apologize for those of you who had connection difficulties, but thank you very much for all the work that's gone into this. And I think now we need to return to the plenary by clicking on a different link, which is the individual link that you received by email, and it should be the same one you used to join the plenary for the forum in the first place. So it's just to note that you need to leave this session and reconnect. Many thanks.